let me ask you this question. I would like to ask the AG to propose legislation for what we call small claims court. There are lots of poor people, to an example you just gave, that they have issues with others and sometimes with large firms, but the lawyer fee is greater than the fee you're claiming.
It is their
right.
Yes. A right, the right that someone has. All our rights exist in context.
What is the context of a second medical opinion?
Because you're disrespecting the process.
No.
Jesus, this is common sense, man.
Any situation which you seem to do, you're just dealing with Afro-Guyanese issues. If one, you can't bring and pull the leaders of the African community together, you're failing. And if two, you can't put forward a future, a blueprint, and a plan for African Guyanese, you're failing as well.
Pleasant Monday evening to you. This is Monday, the 16th of February. Interestingly, Leonard Craig and I have written on the same subject in our Guyana Chronicle today. Please consult the Chronicle if you want to read about what Leonard Craig and I have to say about the news that's making the round. The demise, the death, the disappearance, the gone of Stabroek news. There are many interpretations to that. I am doing a series on the Stabroek news in Guyana Chronicle. I can't do it in one column. So I did part 1 Sunday. Now today, Monday the 16th, I have done part 2, and Leonard Craig has a very interesting article on it. The Stabroek news, or that may take up our entire program. I hope not, but we have to start with that because there's so much nonsense. Ladies and gentlemen, sometimes I want to believe that there's more nonsense coming out the mouths of Guyanese than any other nation on planet Earth. Sometimes you feel that people are so jackassish that you can't find bigger jackasses than in Guyana. Now look at the online comments on the Stabroek news today, Monday the 16th. People say all kind of things, but they never reply to your point that you say Stabroek did A, B, C, D. And then they give their interpretation and say you are wrong. They like the man and they featured the man because they like the red shirt of the man. They comment that the Stabroek liked the man because the man was a great cricketer. But don't ignore the fact that Stabroek gives this man space every day. So when someone says, why are they giving this man space every day and locking out so many other people? Comment on that. But don't ignore the fact that Stabroek gives the man a page every day. Make an interpretation of that. So you read the things that these people say and they ignore so many things. Look, in this life, there are fraudulent bankers, they are repressive politicians, they are brutal senior police officers. But they have their positive side. They could be very good husbands, very good wives. They could treat their staff very nice, but they're joking the bank's money. But joking the bank money doesn't mean that these people have brutalized their employees. It doesn't mean that they were very cruel in promotion. That's their thing. They stole the bank money. Now you can have a politician that does wrong things, but that doesn't mean that he's not, a good husband. It doesn't mean that he doesn't treat his staff badly. Now, people talk so much things about the Stabroek News, and they're forgetting one thing, that human-led organizations, governments go through phases. You start with a man and a woman with a knapsack on their back, and they're going up to the police and getting hit by the police because they're fighting for vendors. They're fighting for rastas that the police arrest just for a spiff. And that guy with the rucksack becomes a prime minister and a president. And he invites Wall Street to run the country. And you say, that's the man that I knew with the rucksack on his back. People go through different phases. There was a phase when you didn't have free and fair elections, and Stabroek was there. And then decades pass, the dialectics take over the world, and people change. And Stabroek changed. They became savagely unindependent. They became nakedly partisan. They encouraged people to say things that you want to hold these people. I could give you an example. We do our calling, which will start back shortly. And people would call Leonard Craig and they call in, please contact the NIS. Please remind the NIS. And Leonard Craig was bombarded with these calls. And he went into the NIS and did human rights work. You ask the NIS if they ever heard about Mike McCormack. If he ever went into the NIS, and he has a body called the Human Rights Organization, and Stabroek would give that organization front page coverage every week. Now those are wrong things. So if you're going to speak about the Stabroek News, speak about the good things that I have done today. I have done today the good things I have written about the Stabroek News today in my Chronicle column. Please go and read it. I said good things about them. But there are bad things that people do. The PPP, the PNC, the United Force, Peter the Gar, the army, the police, they do good things and they do bad things. And you have to talk about the good things they do and the bad things they do. But you read these comments, oh the Stabroek News, oh the Stabroek News, oh the Stabroek News. And what about the wrong things that they have done? Do you read this? Have you been reading the Stabroek News the past year, the past 2 years, the past 3 years? Have you spoken to people who can't get a letter in the Stabroek News? Because we will come to deal with the coverage of one of the worst war crimes in human history, genocide of the Palestinian people, and how Stabroek's attitude to that. But let's go over to Leonard Craig.
Hey, good night, viewers. I too want to just take a quick look at the term Freddie uses, the death of the Stabroek News. The Stabroek News has been a feature in our news, political, cultural landscape for decades. I think Stabroek News was born under Desmond Hoyt in
November 1986.
Right. And I could remember the days when Stabroek News was black and white, and then they start rolling out color prints and so on. I remember reading articles about the fight for justice, the fight for free and fair election in Stabroek News, and things like that. So as Freddie said, there are positive sides to Stabroek News. Stabroek News served the nation well, and we thank them. Stabroek News employed hundreds of people over time. And one of the things I've never heard that people complain about poor human relations in Stabroek News. I've never heard. I don't know if it exists, but I've never heard an employee of Stabroek News complain that Stabroek News has poor human relations. So there are lots of things to be lauded about Stabroek News. And so with all of these positives that you can attribute to Stabroek News, one wonders, why is Stabroek News going out of business? Why is Stabroek News, why is the death of Stabroek News being announced? And there are several angles you can look at that from. But my thing is this: I don't think Stabroek News has innovated enough. It's like the death of the cinema in Guyana, the previous cinema, for those of us who grew up in the era of going to cinema in pit and balcony and so on.
Plaza, Strand Deluxe and James Bond.
Right, and all those cinema, and the Strand Cinema had I think it was a franchise they had in Berbice and some other places. And as boys growing up, we used to go and do odd jobs, for example, to get money to go in the cinema in the afternoon, right? To look at, sometimes there are some shows that children are not allowed to look at, but you would sneak in anyway, find a way of sneaking in through some back door, whatever. But then the DVD culture came, and you start watching short videos on the internet.
Liberty Cinema had to close down.
And the cinema
DVD ran CN Sharma. CN Sharma ran Liberty Cinema on Garden Street because he used to show the films.
The same
DVD.
Yeah, the same film that is being shown.
CN Sharma.
And the cinema, it used to be shown on TV and so on.
You're seeing it for you.
And you're seeing it for free. And then not only that, the atmosphere inside of the cinema never improved. The same seat from the 1980s, it was the same everything. And imagine it was brand new in the 1980s, 1970s, and you were now trying to go in the 1990s to a cinema at the same facility was deteriorated. So it wasn't inviting, and I believe it's the same bug bit the Stabroek News. A lot of new innovation came. The same news that Stabroek News is reporting tomorrow, you already digested it on the Facebook, on the internet, on so many things. And so the desire to go and pick up a Stabroek News tomorrow for today's news is just not there. And I think it is a similar bug that bit Stabroek News. They failed to innovate. Stabroek News ran DirecTV. DirecTV, I never saw. You saw marketing, a little 2x2 something inside the Stabroek News, tucked away somewhere. And I didn't think Stabroek News DirecTV arm was directed at the common everyday man. The common everyday man didn't know that Stabroek's DirecTV existed. Then there was a black market against DirecTV that came into Guyana. People were offering DirecTV at half the price of Stabroek and so on. I don't know how they did it, but that did happen. And again, it shows Stabroek's inability to innovate. I don't know what was the business thinking at Stabroek, but it is clear when you evaluate it. And so that contributed largely to Stabroek's demise. I see Stabroek blaming a couple of things for the demise. One, they're blaming government ads or government slow payment of ads for ads that they place. I see them saying, for example, and this is one I want to touch on, Freddie, before I go back to you. I was the chairman of the GNBA, Guyana National Broadcasting Corporation.
Read his column today on the Stabroek News. I didn't even know that. When Stabroek News announced on the 13th that they were closing, and they said they couldn't even get a radio station because they were victimized. Listen why they couldn't get a radio station. The man in charge of giving you a radio station is right here.
I am saying to the nation now, and when I became chairman of the Guyana Broadcasting Authority, the government through the Prime Minister Moses Nagamutu expressed a desire to give Stabroek News a radio license, because that was one of my first tasks pull up the application for Stabroek and let's talk about it. And when I pull up the application, it was defective in law. The law requires certain things for Stabroek to fulfill, or for any applicant to fulfill, and Stabroek had not fulfilled that. And at that time, there were 2 applications that had to be placed, one to the GNBA and one to the Frequency Management Unit. They did have applications, but both applications were defective. So what I did, and I'm saying to the country now, I called in the manager for Stabroek News. I think her name is Miss Shaliza Khan. And she came in and we had a discussion. And I discussed with her the defects in the application. And I also offered, I said, look, you know how Guyanese speak. You know, this thing is coming from higher up. So I gotta help you. Literally, that is what I said. Right? Maybe not in those words, but the summation of it is, this thing coming from higher up, so I gotta help you. So tell me how we at the GNBA could help you to rectify your application so that it could go through the process, the legal process, for you to get a license. That was in 2015. The entire 2016 came, and I left the GNBA in October or November of 2016. And up to that time, which is an entire year, Stabroek News had not yet rectified the defects in their application for a radio license. I don't know what happened during that intervening period, but I left Guyana and then I came back early 2020. And in the course of moving around, I asked about it. I inquired and I was told that Stabroek did not make any serious, further serious moves towards acquiring a radio license. I don't know if Stabroek thought that they could just pick up the phone and call somebody and say, y'all give me a radio license and you get it. I don't know if that is the way they do business. But as chairman of the GNBA, I couldn't do business like that. The law had some requirements. I offered to assist in making the requirements work, or helping them to fulfill the requirements, and up to when I left, they had not done so. And I am saying that it would not be accurate for Stabroek News to say, at least during that period, that they were repeatedly denied a radio license, at least for that period that I could account for. So I am saying that it can't be that the denial of a radio license to expand their work, their capital or income is responsible. It might be something in their management structure or something, but not the. It wouldn't be fair and accurate to make such a statement. Freddie.
This program this evening may very well run into program time with the discussion in Stabroek News. I am about to say something that I said twice on this program, and I said it once in my column. Inbuilt, of course, you would know, all of you who watch it social media and watch it live television, you know that the stations in the United States, they have a built-in system of viewership. So you could know after a week how many people view ABC or NBC or the Freddie Kissoon show or Guyanese Critic, what have you. We interviewed a man that is pro-government, supports the government, Leonard Craig. And a week after that program, his viewership stood at 105,000. Everybody knows about Christopher Ram, and the Stabroek News has made Christopher Ram a big name. We interviewed Christopher Ram, and a week after, the viewership of Christopher Ram did not go beyond 40,000. Leonard Craig, a pro-government personality, had 65,000 more viewers than Christopher Ram. What's the lesson to be learned there? It's a lesson that Stabroek News didn't learn. if you are an independent newspaper, you have to carry, and the New York Times and the Washington Post do it. You pick up the New York Times and you see an academic from some university saying what Trump is doing is correct. The world order has to change. And then another day, you see somebody saying Trump is a danger to the world. Why do you do that? Because there are people who want to read about is there anything good about this man Trump? And they want to read people saying, they want to hear people say if he's demonic, if he's diabolical. Now, you have a newspaper that publishes a financial analyst almost every day, Christopher Ram. But there are thousands of people out there who want to see the other version of Christopher Ram, and that's Joel Bagwandin. So what do? You carry Ram, and then you invite Joel Bagwandin to be your Tuesday columnist or your Wednesday columnist, and he puts it on Ram, and people read, and they want to hear this thing about Ram versus Joel Bagwandin. This guy is a very well educated guy, so he started to do a column for the Chronicle. Immediately, that's what you do in the corporate world, in every world. You steal. So you see this guy, Craig, writing a column. So you get in the boardroom, you say, why we don't ask Craig to do a column for us, why? So you have these out and out pro-PNC, pro-African columnists in the stabroek. Get a man, get a woman to put the government side to talk about the innovative transformation mentality of the PPP. And guess why it can work? Who says the PPP don't have supporters?
Yeah.
Who says the people in the countryside don't want to read about this lady writing about Jack Dio and how good as a finance minister he is? And there are people that want to read about the criticism of Jack Dio. So you offer them those alternatives. You know what the editor-in-chief, Anand Prasad of the Stabroek News, how he described me? As a PPP lapdog. Do you know before this program on Monday, who was the guest on the Friday program? A man that sat in front of this camera named Ubash Narayan and said all kinds of things about the government. And people look, and people want to hear somebody that can call Ubash Narayan a liar. They want to hear that. But Stabroek didn't have that.
Yeah.
I wrote for the Kaicho News, and Glenal was out and out anti-PPP, hate Jack Dio, hate the PPP, wanted to fall. And from 2020, when the PPP came into power, I wrote a daily column for the Kaicho News, and Glenn would, I hear behind my back, he would curse me when I write in favor of the PPP. But that he knew I solved the purpose in the papers. People want to read Freddie Kissoon. And that stupidity overcame and saturated Stabroek. So what they did, they never invited Leonard Craig to talk about problems people have with NIS. They invited the guy from the human rights. They invited him, and he talked every week. They give the Guyana human rights a front page coverage. But there are people that wanted other NGOs. They want to hear about other NGOs rather than Mike McCormack alone. And for years, these people with Christopher Ram, the GHRA. I know people. There's a guy that is one of the most experienced political activists in this country. We grew up together. We know each other more than 50 years. Gerald Pereira, leading Pan-Africanists in Africa, the Caribbean. Man was an advisor to the Libyan government. That man said every time he writes something and criticizes imperialism, never gets it published. There are people who want to hear criticism of imperialism. Now, why you think people go to buy a paper when my neighbor here Christopher Ram every day? Do you know why the Kite Show News went right down to the ground? From 2022,
Kite Show.
yes, from 2022, every headline was oil. This paper started on a very good footing. 2 women fight for another man in the fish pond. And people gone. What they got now with? And people bought that paper. Run from 2022, every headline was oil. And you know what those people in the market said? We go with oil again. Oil. He killed that paper. Stabroek News killed its own self. There are macro reasons for why newspapers are dying, and we're going to discuss that because we have time. But don't believe Stabroek News like was any saint. Let me tell you what you need to do if you look at this program. Don't worry what Freddie Kissoon saying. You go and prove that Freddie Kissoon is a liar by going on the online edition of Stabroek News. Every comment on the stories are anti-government. Them pushing in a nice comment in favor of Freddie Kissoon, in favor of Craig, in favor of Gawu, in favor of the government. Every comment, that's what they do. They locked out comments. You know what people told me? People told me they would write letters and my name would mention. They took out all of that. Took out the part where my... How you gonna have a successful paper when you carry one side only? Don't take my word for it. Go to the Stabroek online comments. You don't worry with them, Stabroek. Don't worry with them. The people gonna fall. You're doing a good job. People don't want to hear that. Only some people want to hear. So they sat down. They sat down in that office. The chairman of the board, which is Mr. Dekeri's son, the founder's son, he said he was the chairman for the past 5 years. What was he doing when now please, if you're looking at this program, look at my finger please. Every editorial from the time Orphan Ali came into power in August 2020, every editorial was critical of the government. Let me tell you something that that President Ali did. That in 1970, people at university would have marched down to his office and lift him up and carry him all over the streets of Georgetown. You know what President Ali did? And that's the era I was born in. And that era lives in my vein. President Ali said, here, you're coming here to invest. The oil company is the biggest investor here. Go and rent places. Go and live among the Guyanese people. We are not building no large enclave, and only Caucasian people working with Exxon gonna be in this enclave. And when you riding a bicycle, a security stop and say, no, go that side. You can't ride by where this enclave is. You can't stop and fix your bonnet by what this enclave is. Security run out, because it's a special place. There was a special place like that at the corner of Sheriff Street and the Rupert Craig Highway, or what we call the old highway. It used to be called Bookerton. Only white Booker official lived in that place at the corner of Sheriff Street when it meets to the old Seawall Highway, Sheriff Street Highway. And you couldn't stop there. You couldn't fix your bicycle there. And President Orphan Ali said, that I'm working. So guess where I live? I live in a compound where there are 3 American diplomats. I live in a compound where there are 4 Caucasian white Exxon officials. And I walk my dog and I see them driving in. And you would think there would have been an editorial saying, yes, we welcome that. We have a post-colonial society in which slaves and indentured servants and their generation were treated as nothing. No, you never found the editorial like that. Nothing this man did, nothing Dr. Muhammad Orford Ali did ever met with a present editorial. You have to lose patronage if you behave like that, because the people of Lenore love Ali. He comes from there. He won a landslide in the last election in Lenore. So the people in Lenore can read Stabroek. Hey, you see what Stabroek said about Bibai? They said Bibai is really a man of the people, and Bibai don't like them white people running around and chasing me from where we walking in the sea hall. You have to do that if you're running a newspaper, man. That
yeah. So I believe and I agree with you that part of the demise of Stabroek News is of their own doing. The failure to innovate, failure to
be independent.
Yeah, and so on. The other aspect that we should look at is that Stabroek News started this subscription service
online
for the online edition.
10 euros.
And I mean,
or 50.
Not very many at the time when they started. Not very many people had access to credit card, and by the time people start having access to credit cards,
the news was free.
Exactly, Facebook and so many people had news. Then everybody with a smartphone reporting the news in their own way. So by the time you get to Stabroek, you would have had 10 to 20 different perspectives on the same news that Stabroek is bringing out. You would have already had that hours before. You would have already seen 6 videos from 6 different angles. You would have already engaged in discussions back and forth under the comment section. So when Stabroek News comes out, most people might just want, those people who like to have different perspectives might just want to hear how Stabroek News frame their story, right?
People want to know about Newsweek. You still have Newsweek.
Yeah.
It's public weekly.
Yeah.
The news already gone.
Yeah.
But people want to hear what Newsweek has to say.
Yeah, in that you bring a different perspective. But then when you pick up the Stabroek News, it's the same thing, right? So if you are going to stick to a subscription service and you're going to do that, you cannot only just report the regular news. You got to go and dig somewhere and find something else that nobody else has. And Stabroek News failed to do that. They failed to do the type of investigative journalism. There are stories in the courtrooms every day that talks about everyday real life cases that occur in the court that nobody else report, that Stabroek News could go and so that they have something fresh, something different, something interesting, and they did not have that.
Do you know Christopher Lamb has part 135? Part 135 says 135 columns on the same thing, oil. Part 135.
Yeah. And so people feel
who reading that?
Feel that they are too absorbed in
their own narcissism.
Yeah. And so I believe that is exactly how Stabroek News was run. People set up Stabroek News and then they believe they have a right to exist, and they just run it as though this is our birthright to exist, and we run the paper the way we feel in our own right and based on our own point of view, and forget everybody else. And I think you felt that when you read the Stabroek News. It came over to you that way.
But in my Sunday column I talked about Portuguese, mulatto, Creole domination. I want to use these programs, and I said that from the beginning, so they could go into the history books. I wrote for the Stabroek News from 88, right, to 95. And some of the things I see in that newspaper, I was convinced, beyond a shadow of doubt, that we were living back in the days of Portuguese hegemony.
That story you wrote about Nagamutu was
Look,
the first time I heard it.
That lady told him, how you get up here? How you come up here? You're supposed to report to the security. The security telephoned me. Nobody telephoned me. You walking up here. Do you know that lady would have never spoken to a white man like that? Never spoken to a Portuguese guy like that? You know, we the queen name, Nagamutu, and he's a parliamentarian with what? The Kuli party, the PPP. I'm using the word Kuli in context. She would have never have spoken to Mike McCormack, the Englishman like that. That you could see that was contempt.
Yeah.
You know what Doreen the Carey's did as manager? Let me tell you what Doreen the Carey's did. Libya, at the time of the height of the non-aligned movement, was building the largest man-made river in Libya. And the Libyan contact man in Guyana was Gerald Pereira. Gerald Pereira gave a whole page ad to Stabroek about this man-made river in Libya. You know what Doreen the Carey said? The country, Libya, we can carry a full page, and no, we can do without her. And at that time, Libya and Gaddafi were big in the world, and he was one of the leading anti-imperialists. Right? It's the way, it's what they were born with. And now I want to talk about Palestine. And in my Sunday column, and these, I'm appealing to the jackasses. I'm appealing to the jackasses that criticize me, that say this and that about the Stabroek. Read the facts. If you do not read the facts, you're not going to be educated, and you can end up all your life like a jackass. Read what Stabroek News did, and read what Kaicho News did. When the genocide started in Gaza, there was a march, the first march, that began from Coffee Square, went along to Queenstown and came back. Kaicho News carried that with photograph. Stabroek News didn't. There were 2 other subsequent marches. Kaicho News carried it. There were 4 symposia on Gaza. Nothing from Kaicho News. When the genocide was...
Nothing from Stabroek.
Not from Stabroek News. Do you know what Stabroek News did when the genocide was going on? Rang the Israeli ambassador to the UN and asked him for an interview. And there is a Palestinian ambassador to the UN, paid a visit to Guyana, held a press briefing in Pegasus, of which I attended, and the mayor was there. Stabroek News didn't cover it. The ambassador of Palestine to Guyana, there is an ambassador of Palestine to Guyana. She came here. Stabroek never covered it. There are 6 now for you jackasses that think that the Stabroek News is a peach. Look at the facts and educate yourself before you spend the rest of your life in abysmal ignorance. There are 6, look at my hand, there are 6 front page stories in the Kaicho News about what Israel did and was doing in Gaza. They featured it front page. You go online. There has never been, never been in the foreign section of the Stabroek News or any section a report on what goes on or went on in Gaza. There were 6, I repeat, 6 front page online stories. I don't know if it was in the print issue. I read the Kaicho online, and that was on the front page of what the amount of doctors Israel killed. They just bombed. It would be Israel just killed 32 people sleeping. Nothing from the Stabroek. There is a foreign section of the Stabroek News. It carries foreign news. There was not one item for the past 2 years on what Israel has done in Gaza. And you telling me that is the newspaper you are praising? Do you know what is genocide? Do you know what happened in Gaza the past 2 years, in which 75,000 people were killed, a majority of children and women? Listen to these facts and learn something and educate yourself and do the decent thing. Do the decent thing and be a decent person. More journalists, more aid workers, more babies, more women, more doctors were killed in a 6-month period by the bombing of Gaza by Israel than any war in human history. And they talk about Nazi. You want to say something?
Yeah, I mentioned it earlier in passing, but I want to pivot to the question that Stabroek News is also claiming that government has targeted them specifically by being too slow to pay for ads placed in the
I gotta
newspaper.
cut you there. I work for the Chronicle. I don't get paid. I know how much the Chronicle is owed. It's owed more than
that's the point I'm going
and the
to
people
make.
the Chronicle want their money.
When you look at the outstanding debt for all news agencies, it's a quantum. All of them are owed. So if for Stabroek News to say that government singled them out,
got more ads than Kaichol.
yes,
after
it got more ads than Kaichol,
And Guyana
more
Times.
ads than Guyana Times. In fact, Guyana Times, who they say is a personal friend of the Vice President, the owner of Guyana Times, is the personal friend of the Vice President, gets the least amount of ads. And they too are owed. So to say that the government is singling out Stabroek News by paying it slowly or not on time, so to affect its cash flow, would not be accurate, because the Guyana Chronicle, the Guyana Times, Kaichor News, all of them could say the same thing. I am not advocating that government payment system should be that slow, but
Should be much more quicker.
I believe it is quicker. It should be quicker.
But that's not the reason for
But
stopping.
exactly, but that can't be the reason for or it can't be that government has singled them out to stymie their cash flow. It can't be that. It got to be something else in government payment system. Because I've heard contractors did contract for government and they expect payment in 1 week, in 2 weeks, and it end up taking more weeks or probably months. So there is some inefficiency in terms of payments in the government system that I would like to see work out, that all of us would like to see work out. And I know especially for small businesses, like if you own a small business and you're doing work for government in
They gotta pay you
Guyana,
on time, man.
you gotta get 3 separate capitals. One capital to purchase things, as we in Guyana say, buy thing and put on. You gotta get another working capital
Yes,
to work on an everyday basis, and another working capital put up in government waiting for payment. But if you were to depend on that to move your small business forward, your small business will crash overnight. And so if you understand that, and again, but I will take this time to ask the powers that be to work out a system that is more efficient for contractors and people who the government owe to be paid
Why
faster.
the government takes so slow
I
to pay, man?
I don't know.
Man, please, pay
Yeah.
people, man.
Yeah,
The whole country, the whole world expected to pay people in time. But I want to talk to these fools and idiots, no apologies, that say the Stabroek was great and the government pressure Stabroek. I want you to read, man, again I repeat, read the facts and you will learn a lot about life and your own country. on the Saturday edition, the front page Saturday edition of the Stabroek News, Isabella de Carey's and Brendan de Carey's, Brendan is chairman of the board, issue a statement. Read that statement and you will see that the Stabroek News, as they say in common Guyanese parlance, ain't ready yet. They issued a statement about the closure and said, state ads, which is a significant aspect of the paper's income. They said that is a significant aspect of the paper's income. Let me give you an analogy. A man, when your house is at the back, based on how house lots are shaped, you living at the back and you don't got no space to park your car. But to walk out to the road, the neighbor has to give you something called right of passage. But you don't got no way to park your car, and the law say he got to give you a place to walk. So, based on the measurement, you only got this piece here to walk, and the man can't close the piece. Now the man could open his land for you to drive a motorbike in. Now if the man open his land for you to drive your motorbike in, if the man borrow or he squash that he going, touching you paying, or touching you thing, you can ask the man for take it down. The man giving you right of passage for you ride your motorcycle. The man land by legal measurement is this. You only entitled to go out and walk through this. The man broadening your thing so you can ride in your motorbike. He go and he squash and he borrow and it hang over the vine, hang over your fence. You can ask the man for move it, you know what the man gonna do? The man gonna take mud and full up back the passageway so your motorcycle can't come. If a significant income of your papers from the state, man, every day you can abuse the people and abuse them unreasonably. Do the commonsensical thing now. Look at some minister and the minister do something good, a policy good. Give the people a little credit now. Make them feel that you're independent now. But you can write an editorial name, title 4 Men Round a Table. And you write this editorial of a still photograph you saw of Jack Dio, Finance Minister Singh, Ashley Singh, the President, and another man round a table looking at something. And you write an editorial and say, look at the picture. The President didn't even look like he got any say. You can look at a still photograph. You know how many still photographs I saw, and President Trump is dominated from you look at the photograph. Elon Musk say more things than Trump, but Trump is the president. They did an editorial, and was derogative of the president. The photograph said, and you see he's sitting, and he looked like he making a point in a still photograph. They did another editorial in which they said, they're damn lucky. They ain't got no vision or anything, but you know what? They were lucky to find oil. And it's oil. I mean, the government lucky to find oil? No. Brendan the Careys said, and for those of you who are stupid enough to run away with the Stabroek News being an angel, inject some common sense into yourself, like Brendan the Carey should have done. If a significant portion of your income is from the government, then like the neighbor, leave the vine, the squash vine, right? On the thing you were taking, you will tell the man giving you right a passage, and you will tell him the man why you got your vine on.
So, Freddie, let me just be the devil's advocate. You are advocating for yellow journalism? That's what you're advocating for?
No. what that
So
mean.
because government is giving advertisement to Stabroek News, Stabroek News got to be...
No,
Okay.
hear what I'm saying.
Okay.
I'm saying you got to be reasonable, you got to be realistic. But also you have to look at human nature. A government chose you a lifeline for your people to survive. And you're cussing them down, not justifiably, but you're mocking them. You're writing editorial saying, look at the photograph. The president doesn't look like he got any say in the government. You're mocking them. How could you have an employer that pays you and every day you mock him and say, look what clothes you wearing? You know what we're gonna say? I'm gonna fire you. You got to say, Mr. Smith, man, the red shirt will look nice on you. Mr. Smith don't wear the red shirt. And then when Mr. Smith wear a nice shirt, you got to say, Saul, Saul, you come off there, man.
Yeah.
You come off there. I got to hand it to you. Where you look at the mirror, Mr. Smith. You look good if you go there. Women, you know, you got to give Jack his jacket. So they never give Jack his jacket. And Brendan the Carey said government ad was a significant income. Well, all right. Don't be sycophantic and pander to the government. That's yellow journalism, he said. But you mean for 365 days, a government within a transformational president that if, oh man, finally and all the bad. Finally and come within the tradition of our previous governmental leaders there. The man is different. The man has the common touch. Oh man, give him an editorial saying that he's going in the right direction. People like the way, you know, he invades their space and he takes, man, Craig.
Yeah. So in all that we're seeing is that Stabroek News demise, in my opinion, is of their own doing. It is not anybody did anything to Stabroek News. Now the other thing about Stabroek News, I think I am reasonably well read, and I have a reasonable understanding of what's happening in society, and I have never seen anywhere, Freddie, you know, from the feel you get that Stabroek News circulation has declined. You know that, but you don't know by how much, because Stabroek News is one of the newspaper that does not communicate to the public what its circulation is.
It's board of directors who are shareholders, nothing.
Right. And because of that, you feel a little distance from Stabroek News. And sometimes even small businesses or other people who are tempted to advertise in Stabroek News, they're like, but this is a place that is mysterious to us, right? And because of that business distance with advertisers or at least new advertisers who want to come on board would exist, and that is part of the business model that failed, and so Stabroek News, I don't know if it is because of the younger Nigerians who took over from their parents, probably don't have as wide a network as their parents did, and so
you remember he was a lawyer.
Yes.
He had traversed the political circles. He knew Burnham, he knew Hoyt, he knew Jadon.
And that network probably kept the Stabroek News. And now the younger ones take over and they do not have that reach. And
they're very elitist. You know,
right.
You know what the daughter Isabella de Carey's did? They could have got millions, dozens of millions for the house at Comina and Camp Street. So they kept it and called it Moray House. And it's the custodian of the mulatto Creole culture. Every month, that class of people have a tea party there, a luncheon there. If there's any part of Guyana where you can find the monthly or weekly gathering of clay complexion people, Portuguese people, mulatto people is at Moray House. But there are some things that the Stabroek News haven't told us. And we in society who got our feelers around should let you know. The decision to close Stabroek was made by Isabella de Caries and Brendan de Caries after their mother took ill and she's terminally ill. And they said that they're finished with newspaper business. They live outside, they are residents of the UK, their children grew up in the UK, and the Stabroek News was falling, it wasn't making a profit, and they said that as the majority shareholders, they want to finish with newspaper business and leave. So it was a decision by the de Caries that the father had died, the mother is seriously ill, they live outside, and that was it. They're now gone from Guyana. The paper will close and they will take their rightful place in the UK where they live. So that is one of the reasons. The other reason is that last year they had asked a number of firms, a number of Portuguese firms, well known, if they would take over the paper. And all of them said they are business people. They can't take over a business that is not making a profit. And you can't run a newspaper and make a profit in this day and age. Just to keep that huge printing press going. Just imagine, 4 people could sit down in an office. 2 persons could sit down in an office. 2 layout, you call them layout office, or layout artists. And 4 journalists gone out there and covering the whole country. And they bring back their report, and that layout artist do his or her thing. And you go online and read the news. How can you upkeep 60 members of staff, a large printing press, import ink, import newsprint, when you can go on your computer and read about the cow that jumped over the moon in Barbados and crashed in a police station? And you get the color, you get everything by the very journalists that work with the newspaper, go in, photograph it, write up the story. That is life today is. We may be sad that newspapers going out, but a lot of things have went out because the world moves on.
Yeah.
You know what has went out? The post office. Do you know there are millions of letters from the 18th century written by some of civilization's most famous people? They have written letters to their spouses, their bosses, and those letters are kept in archives, and those letters took the form of printed books, hundreds of printed books. You don't write a letter to your boyfriend or girlfriend in a different country anymore. You go on WhatsApp.
Yeah, FaceTime and
Uncle John don't want to sign over the property. What must do? 50 years ago, you write a letter, go in the post office, register it and push it in. So, German soup was a big thing in Guyana in Tiger Bay. When you go to 11 o'clock, you can't get seat in German. You go at 12 o'clock in Tiger Bay, and half of German empty. So he decide, I can carry this place to where people going. Giffland Mall. Times change.
Yeah.
And that you know how much your printing press? You know how much your Heidelberg printing press from Germany? 1 million US. That's 220 Guyanese. You put that down. You buy ink. You buy newsprint. You need a big. You ever see the building Stabroek News and Kaicho News are printed in? Huge building the press can't go into. But that age is gone. You can read the news on your phone. So we may be sad that newspapers gone up, but you know what? I grew up with a man named Sokraj that had 6-7 cinemas, and I gone and see Darminja and Rajesh Khanna after afternoon class. Some guy who went to college in Thomas Street, we gone and see Rajesh Khanna and Darminja. The age gone. It's finished with.
Yeah.
You know the music I grew up with? I grew up with Neil Diamond, Barry Manilow, Nat King Cole. When you go now, you're hearing a rap music that I don't understand.
Cardi B.
I long for the days of Barry Manilow, Air Supply. Nobody can replace Johnny Mathis for me. I long for those days, but you know what the Australian government did? Hundreds of youths lining in the area making a lot of noise. And they set up loudspeakers and played the love ballads of Barry Manilow. Well, you know, they want to hear rapping them thing and chase them. They want to hear the Ghana and lime somewhere else. The world has changed. Newspapers are gone.
Yeah. And you know, when somebody die in Guyana, we got a thing we say walk good.
Yeah.
So we just got to say to Stabroek News, walk good.
But what about R.I.P.? R.I.P.
Well, that too.
But you know, Kaicho coming. If Stabroek fail, Kaicho there behind. Because you got to pour money into it. So look,
I think it's probably an opportunity for Kaicho to renew itself, because
Better
some of that will shift, and I think Kaicho now has an opportunity to sit down and rethink its strategy
and stop that one-dimensional news.
The one-dimension,
anti-government.
Yeah, just open your newspaper
open your newspaper to people abusing the government and people supporting the government.
And Kaicho used to have that in the day. You turn and you see one column by Peeping Tom saying government good, and you turn over and you used to see Freddie Kissoon saying the government not so good, and that,
and people like
used
the
to
tit,
make,
like the tit for tat. It's the mulatto Creole mentality of Brendan the Carries and his sister Isabella.
To me, you used to feel that from the Stabroek. And it became worse after 2020, as I said in my column today.
Just look at Moray House. They're custodian of a class that has died. With that, thanks for being with us on this Monday evening, and we will see you on Wednesday. On behalf of our operators, Leonard Craig, and the beautiful Promenade Gardens. Catch you later. Bye-bye.